Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by Kerri White, who is an author, a trainer, a consultant, the co-founder and CEO of Kerri James. Kerri, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Adrian. Delighted to be with you.
Kerri, it sounds like you wear a lot of hats.
I know. And mom, wife, dog mom, that didn't even hit the top of the list. So it's a busy time of year to be doing all those things.
It definitely is. Kerri, can you start off by telling me and our listeners a little about yourself and a little bit about Kerri James?
Sure. I am a recovering teacher, believe it or not. I feel like I'm on the fourth iteration of Kerri White. I started out 30 years ago as a teacher. And love teaching, but what I found is, as my family grew, that wasn't a great career for me. And so I ventured out into freelancing and started working with lawyers. During that time, I learned that consulting is a lot like teaching. It's just taller students with better budgets, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So now, in the last 10 years, I've spent my time working with law firms, from a solo entrepreneur to a multi-state office, all practice areas and types of lawyers, helping them grow. And it's been a terrific fit. So it's been a fun ride.
So let me ask, with Kerri James, when people come to you and need the help of Kerri James, or even, we'll get into this as well, the law firm growth machine.
Thank you. Cheesy name, phenomenal concept, not going to lie.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive into that. But when people come to you, what are some of the problems that they are having? What are the problems that you're seeing?
It's so interesting you asked that question, because when people come to me, obviously growth is what's always on their mind. But my career on the freelancing side certainly started in marketing. But I learned very quickly as a marketer that if I wanted marketing to look good, if I wanted to be rewarded and appreciated for the work I was doing in marketing, then I was going to have to learn to master intake. And I was going to have to make sure that the law firms that I worked with mastered intake, because if the firm isn't signing cases, they're usually coming to the marketing team to fuss. And so I knew I was doing a great job marketing, and yet, as I say repeatedly, clicks aren't clients, calls aren't clients, only clients are clients. And that metric that matters most to the law firm is signed cases. So I really doubled down on intake, and certainly did not set out to become some sort of intake expert, but lo and behold, that's what I became. And so intake kind of sits at the heart of the firm, where the marketing is coming in, the clients are being handed out, and there's a tremendous amount of valuable data hidden in intake. And so while they typically come to me like, I need to grow, I want to spend more in my marketing, I want to generate more leads, I usually have to stop them right there and say, let's talk about your intake. Because the last thing that a law firm should do when they're not thriving is add more volume to something that's not thriving. And so we have to really diagnose what's going on. And typically a great place to begin is an intake. So I can't say I set out to become the intake lady, but when the market speaks, we should listen. And I became the intake lady.
Well, so you say you didn't set out to become the intake lady, right? But before we move on, something I do want to dive in, because I do think it's kind of fun, or at least I see a connection there. Is you were a teacher, right?
Yes.
And in some capacity, you're still educating.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you see, how much crossover between the two roles, being a teacher, you're educating in both positions. Do you see a lot of crossover, or do Do you ever find yourself having
Absolutely.
those
Well, I'm
moments?
going to give my shameless plug shout out to the teachers of the world who are some of the most phenomenal people that I know. Teachers are constantly learning in addition to teaching, and they're constantly assessing data. They are going back to iterate and optimize based on the outcomes. And so we are presenters, organizers, managers, people. There are so many benefits to working with teachers outside of the classroom that to this day, when people ask me where they should find some new talent, I hate to say it, but I also know how true it is. Teachers are not the happiest people right now. The state of education is a whole nother subject. But if you can bring teachers into your workplace, you will find some of the most qualified and capable professionals on the planet. Hands down, period, end of sentence. As far as
Yeah.
the crossover goes, you're organizing people, you are teaching and learning, you are analyzing data, and you're going back to the drawing board to see where you need to make adjustments. Like I said, the consulting world has better budgets, but at the end of the day, there is a tremendous amount of crossover. One of the things that is different that I have quite liked is you aren't always presenting in front of your client's parents, which has, I still remember those days of having, I could, sing and dance all day in front of a classroom. I actually taught gifted students in an English program. And so, people always say, how did you make that transition? And I remind them that attorneys and middle school gifted children are not all that different. There's just a bunch of these kids who think they know a whole lot of everything. And if they'd let somebody else in and have a look, I think they'd find they could learn a lot too. So great crossover. It's been a phenomenal fit for me. And I think, it's funny. I had, this goes back to 2015. It was the first time that I had presented at a big conference. And I was just feeling high as a kite. Like it was just a great presentation and satisfied attorneys everywhere I looked. And I was walking out going, man, how can I do more of this where I like present to people who can't wait to learn what I have to say? And I realized that I would find myself back in the classroom for $35,000 a year and quickly rethought that. So
Absolutely. Well, and not only are you educating people, whether young, old, business owners, or students, not only are you educating, you're empowering people.
yeah, well, I was going to say, it's funny you say the word empowering. What was coming to mind is motivating. You need people to feel excited about what they're doing. Getting buy-in is huge. In fact, I met with a client to be, we haven't inked the deal yet, a prospect yesterday, and in my proposal, I had an on-site as well as a continued engagement. And he said, that on-site, that workshop, is that required or preferred? And I can't require anybody to invite me to their office, but man, it makes such a
Right.
difference when I have the opportunity to work and connect with people. The buy-in that you get from those hands-on learning experiences with somebody in your space, learning your culture, it brings us light years ahead in that consulting engagement. So yeah, we can do a lot virtually, but I tend to start my engagements by visiting, getting on site, getting that buy-in, getting everybody together aligned for the project at hand, and then really running the ball over the extended period virtually. But yeah, getting in somebody's
Yeah.
space makes a big difference.
Well, and I guess because I think that that's really incredible, that ability to sort of, educate, empower, motivate,
Yeah.
whatever the word you want to call it. I think that's absolutely an incredible ability. And I'm wondering, is that something that is innate to you as a
Mm.
person, that ability, or is that something that you've cultivated along the way, that skill?
I think I'm going to have to play this back for my children, who would probably say I'm not the most motivating person. I tend to be maybe perhaps a little bit tougher on the home front. But I think we need to we as a society right now. I think we're talking a lot about young people today and what they're bringing into the workplace and how they differ from the Gen Xers or the baby boomers. And I think we have a huge responsibility to develop these professionals. And so part of developing them is holding them accountable and having somebody in that consulting capacity who's looking over their shoulder and saying, okay, I've trained you to do this. Let's talk about how this went.
Right.
and see if we can improve it. We're all kind of running in our lives in a beta mode, right? We're going to try things, but then we can go back and see if we can do better. And so, as busy as most attorneys running a law practice are, sitting down one to one with your intake specialist or your marketing coordinator, those may not be the highest priorities on your list, but they're really important to developing the team. And so, looking at this time of year, we're always looking at, what trends do we see? I think training is a big trend because
Right.
we definitely need to take responsibility for developing the professionals that we have. And conference after conference, I hear people griping about young people these days. Doesn't matter how we got here. We can blame social media. We can blame the phones, COVID, whatever it is. These are the people we inherited. This is our future. And if we want to develop them, we're going to have to spend some time with them. We're going to have to train them, and we're going to have to hold them accountable. And how we do that is through a feedback loop.
Right.
They perform, we evaluate, we provide feedback. They perform, we evaluate, we provide feedback. And that is a true coaches mentality. Yeah, last night happened to be my 18-year-old's award ceremony for football, and man, I'm listening to these 23 passionate football coaches on a high school football team talk about each of these kids, and then I watch these young men get up and throw their arms around these coaches. And there is such affection for people who truly want you to do better. And so I think you develop these relationships with mentor, mentee engagements where you have people who can't wait to tell you how many cases they signed this week, or how many one call closes they got, or what their ROI was on this campaign. And that's the classic, hey mom, look at me.
Right.
People want to be recognized for what they're doing well. So it's not just about looking for what we need to fix. It's about looking for opportunities and shouting out the successes that they're having along the way. And we all know what to do, but the bottom line is that unless we have somebody kind of looking at us, we may not do it to our fullest potential. We've all faked that last pull up on the chin bar a few too many times. That one counts. It didn't count unless your coach was there going, come on, girl, you
Right.
got this, you got this. And that's where the coach in
And
me
you fall off
lives.
and go, and a half, right? And a half.
Yeah, yes. Two halves or a whole. I'll take two halves.
Well, I was going to say that brought up a lot of great points, and what you just said brought up a lot of things that I would like to touch upon. The first of being just I want to talk about, because what you're doing, we've used the words empower, motivate, whatever, but at the base of it all is you're helping, right?
Yeah, I
And
help law firms grow. Yeah.
and I would love to talk about, and I was going to save this question way till the end, but it's a good time to bring it up now because you're talking about that moment of, that hugging and everything. That is there a story that maybe you could share with us, that is there someone that you have really seen a transformation in,
Oh, for sure.
or a business that you have seen a transformation in as a result of your aid, where you at the back end had that moment where someone looked at you and you felt like that coach that got the
Yeah,
hug from the
absolutely.
player? Could you share that with us? I mean, I was going to save that
Absolutely.
question for way later, but it was a good time now.
Yeah, it's go because I tell you, it's super satisfying to me as well, of course. And I think, part of what I've loved in the consulting mode as compared to, my former days of marketing is I feel big feels. Okay. I'm a big feeling person. And so, in the marketing days when somebody would hand me that marketing budget and my responsibility was to turn that budget into 4x, 5x, 9x, 10x, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility that comes with that. And so I really cater to my clients' needs. They've put their trust in me, whether it's, that marketing budget, which, kept me up at night, or training their team. I've learned about myself in business that I'm probably not going to be the most scalable business because I'm too involved with every client. It's my nature. Client service is what I'm great at. And so I had this one client who we had an amazing 90-day engagement. And he was asking me, like, what do we do next kind of thing? And I was like, God, the team is just killing it. Like, look how far we've come. And I pull up my stats of, what I was scoring them on in the early days, what the numbers looked like a couple months ago and where we are now. And I said, you know what, let me get back to you. I'm not sure that you really need me. And a couple weeks went by, and I was still interacting with the team, like, hey, how's it going? And the owner of the firm came back to me another time and said, Kerri, just sign us up again. My team just loves interacting with you. My team is thriving, and I need you to continue developing this team. And so the young woman who I was developing into the intake manager uh, is my girl now. Like, she's just my girl. We just, every week we're looking at the data, and we had gone just consistently uphill. And last month they hit an all-time high of 43 signed cases, which was a huge leap. I mean, literally double from a year ago. Just a tremendous change. And most importantly, because I know, there is a degree of we gotta find the holes, and we're not just celebrating everybody, we're finding problems and fixing them. If there are 50 signed cases and one that was marked lost, the first call I'm going to listen to is the one marked lost. So I go in and into the software, and I'm looking at this big month of 43 cases, and man, there was not a single lost case, and that was a 3-month streak. So I went online, I ordered a giant 4-3 balloon and sent it to the firm for the intake team. And they sent me a picture of their big happy faces in front of these giant number balloons. And it choked me up. Like, it actually choked me up, because those are my babies that were at
Right.
70% conversion just 90 days prior. And the attorney came back to me, like, I still hadn't come up with, what is my, long-term working with me proposal. I didn't have it yet. I didn't know what it was. And I knew that we had really accomplished what we set out for. And he came back to me, he said, Kerri, just reload it, put us on for another 90 days. It's worth it to us. And
Right.
I'd say that was my big win for the year. But you know what? I think that's more because it hit me here, and that team hit me here. This most simple one in numbers, this July, I started working with a team, sent my not the law from Growth Machine, but another book of mine, to the operations manager, and said, start here. I'm
Right.
coming in July, but start here. And she made like all these little changes that I recommended in this tiny little book. And by the time I got there, she had made some structural changes. We trained up, and I kid you not, Adrian, they went from 330 cases in June, or excuse me, in July, to 527 cases in
Wow.
August. And so, those are tremendously satisfying results.
Yeah.
But with every single person you work with, success is going to be measured differently, right? For that firm, it was all about the numbers. For the first firm, it was about developing this person into the person who is going to manage intake. And I think that's the nature of these relationships. Are, again, it's not just technology, it's not just training, it's relationships.
Well, and I was going to say the name of the show, as many times as I get on and in the morning and say, welcome to Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, presented by Leduc Entertainment. No, but the partnerships for profit. I mean, it's great. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the bit of this show, and it's great to hear how that investment in partnerships with people is paying off, right, for you.
yeah.
Like that
Well,
to me is really incredible to hear. Would you care to speak a little more about, like, how you've been able to
sure.
nurture those relationships?
Well, absolutely. There are, I think, in everyone's life and career, there are certain people who step in and create a pivot point. Something fundamentally changes. And I got lucky, like, early in my in starting this business. I was, doing cold outreach, and a large firm in New York connected with me.
Mm.
Huge practice, 23rd floor of on all the way lower Manhattan on Broadway. Hired me to work with them on developing their intake software. And they were really just very impressed with the solution itself. And the chief of ops said, you need to meet this guy. And this guy was someone who's Gary, a good friend of mine all these years later. And Gary said, come on, kid, you got to come with me. This is what I do. I connect people, blah, 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 blah. And within a couple months, I'm at a conference with the named people of all these industry beacons, the SEO guy, the marketing guy. Like, I'm sitting at the table, and I messaged my partner and I said, I'm at the cool kids table. Like, how the hell did I get here so fast? And it was because of that one critical relationship. And
Right.
that completely transformed the trajectory of the business, because all of a sudden that one person introduced me to, I'm sure you've heard the concept of the Dream 100. Don't go client, 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 client. Go to the person who already has the clients. And so I started talking with the people who already served the clients I wanted to serve. And when people would ask me what I do, I would tell them, I make marketing companies look good, because now the marketing companies were interested in talking to me, because, the marketing companies, their job is to make the phone ring, to get the click, to get the call. But that's where their business typically ends. My business begins there, because if you want that marketing investment to be realized, then you need somebody who cares about that next step. And that's just not typically the role of the marketing company. And I think that's, back to this, relationship thing, my marketing days, that fiduciary responsibility to ensure that marketing budget was truly an investment and not an expense, made me really focused on the desired outcome. The outcome wasn't clicks. Those are vanity metrics. What they needed were cases. And so I, partnered up to people in marketing saying, I can help turn these clicks into clients. And that's what really mattered. And so, there have been people who absolutely transformed my position in this space, because they already had the clients I needed to talk to.
Well, first off, turning clicks into clients, if that's not a tagline for some business, anybody listening, it's a great tagline.
I know, right?
Turning clicks into clients. Copy it down now.
Well, so there are the inalienable truths in law firm marketing, and one of them is that clicks aren't clients. If your marketing team is stopping, going, hey, we got you 452,000 clicks, and I can't tell you how many clients that turned into, then there's a misalignment there. So having people who know what they're good at, and I learned, like I said, I learned it early on that I was good at this part of it, and so that's where I built that strength.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit about at the beginning of the show, we talked a little bit about. I will tell you, before I get on, I'm just peeling back the curtain a little bit for the listeners.
Yeah.
Before I get on, I walk around and I say, all right, Kerri White, author, consultant, trainer, CEO, co-founder. I want to talk a little bit about the very first one. I want to talk about the author, and I would love to talk about the law firm growth machine. Would you care to tell us a little bit about your authorship and the law firm growth machine?
Absolutely. So
I love the name. It's so good.
The name is a little goofy. I'm not going to lie. I know it's goofy.
No, it's so good. I love it. It's so good.
It is. The concept is brilliant. And again, this will go back to my teaching days. A machine is any device that makes work require less effort and energy to achieve some outcome. Okay. So your electric toothbrush is a machine. You don't have to, brush as hard. The machine is doing the work for you. Coffee grinder, garlic press, screwdriver. These are all machines. They make the work easier and require less effort. And so what I built is the law firm growth machine. I want it to be easier to grow your law firm. And so the concept of the growth machine is very simple. We need, and this applies to every client service business. So, dental, accounting, lawn care, whatever it is. A lead needs to become a client needs to become an advocate, and an advocate needs to help drive new business into your firm. Okay, period. That is the flywheel effect. Leads become clients, clients become advocates, advocates drive new business. If you have this flywheel operating alongside your funnel, now all of a sudden you're putting funds into the top of the funnel so that out pops a shiny new client. And instead of that being the end of the journey, the machine draws them up and into that flywheel so that we can get that perpetual motion. So the concept of the machine to me is that simple. The machine, and we do actually have software that supports this strategy, it systemizes this concept. The machine captures and aids conversion. That system pushes the client through, ensuring their satisfaction. Then that advocate is amplified so that we're collecting 5-star reviews and video testimonials. And those reviews and testimonials are what we then market to help drive new business in. And you can see that loop. So cheesy word, cheesy name, brilliant concept.
No.
The law firm growth machine is what it is.
No,
Now,
the name rules. I don't care. The name rules. I love the name.
Well, check it out, lawfirmgrowthmachine.com. You can, it's interesting. I don't know that you can, I'll certainly share the link with you to post here as well.
Please, and absolutely.
I've had the machine animated.
And when this goes out, we'll post the link as well. When this all,
thank you.
This is all going out live, but we'll post the link as well for anybody listening.
And you can actually see, I will share that link with you so that you can see the animation of the machine, because it really is quite cool to conceptualize and then visualize the machine. But the real secret to this book, and I told you I was an English teacher in a gifted program, so writing is very natural for me.
Right.
I always knew there was a book inside me. I certainly never, ever in a million years thought it would be about business, growth, law firms, and none of that, I can assure you. But we are sitting here on December 18th, just a scant 7 days from the Christmas holiday. And
my
the
God,
secret to writing
to still buy. Yes,
the secret to writing a book is to start the day after Christmas, because in that 1 week of the year, it is perfectly acceptable to drink during the day. And you pour yourself a little glass of champagne and you sit at your computer and the words flow and flow and flow. And so I sat down to write this book on December 26th. And by January 1st, I already had 20,000 words done. So It's possible. Write your book, capture all the ideas, make sure it's readable. And if you're listening to this interview, then I can assure you, you will hear my voice in the book, because I tell you exactly like it is. I tell you about my clients, my consulting engagements, and how we've captured this concept so that you're not just endlessly feeding the funnel and spitting out a client, but that you're really facilitating the movement into the flywheel.
And I would love to just, back it up. And we've talked about it a little bit, but over the course of this conversation, the words that I keep hearing are, teach, help, empower, inspire. You're really facilitating a lot of positive growth and change in the people that you work with and the people that you help. But I'm wondering, what inspired you to do this? How did you find yourself in this position?
I'm so glad you asked that. And I can tell you exactly when. It was 2016. The American Bar Association in union with the Betty Ford Clinic released a report that discussed the absolute depths of despair the legal profession was in. It is insanely stressful by nature. You're dealing with conflict. Nobody hires a lawyer because they're getting along great with their spouse. So it's an inherently conflict-ridden space. And your job as a lawyer is to take these burdens and put them on your own shoulders. And the space has become insanely saturated. The margins have shrunk tremendously. I think that there is a real tendency in the industry to prey upon businesses. They know that that while the margins have shrunk significantly relative to selling shoelaces and ice cream cones, there's still plenty of profit, and so costs are really high. Your SEO costs are high. Your marketing costs are some of the highest pay-per-click fees on the planet, and so it's really stressful. You compound that with plaintiffs, personal injury attorneys in particular. They take on the work without getting paid. That case may take years to settle or go to trial, and so you're delaying the payment. You're worried about paying your people. This is a really stressful space. The data out of that report discuss the depths of depression, anxiety, and abusive behaviors when it comes to alcohol and drugs. And I have a lot of lawyer friends. I started working with law firms more than a decade ago, and so I knew a lot of lawyers, and I saw the stress. And these are really intense people. Like, you don't get your average laid back, lazy Joe going to get his law
Right.
degree. It's
Right.
a pretty intense crowd, and I just felt like, gosh, it and I say this line exactly in the book. At risk of sounding like a 1980s infomercial, there's got to be a better way. And so there is. And I think that better way was all about, again, capturing this flywheel strategy: leads, clients, advocates, utilizing technology to streamline as much of this as possible. And then this is the critically important part that became crystal clear to me in 2021. You got to know your numbers. You've got to look at the data. You need to, I know for myself, when things are feeling chaotic, I just need to get a grip on the actual state of where things are. Whether that means, looking in the checking account, or pulling up the investments, or cleaning out the pantry, whatever it is, you got to get control of it.
Right.
Knowledge is power. And if I could build a system that made all those things kind of slip into place, then we could make informed decisions. We could control this burden sharing a bit more. And so I really set out there. So, the big firms that I work with, and I do work with a lot of big firms who, they have the resources to invest in building their team or developing their software. But when I get those onesie twosie law firm groups,
Right.
the solo attorney, or the two guys who are renting shared space, I come in with this stuff, and it just gives such a tremendous sense of control. One of my very early clients is across the street from that big New York attorney that I mentioned earlier. And he invited me to his holiday lunch this year, which was just last week. And I couldn't make it, but he sent me a picture, and he said, I should call this the annual Kerri lunch, because none of this would have been possible without you. And again,
Wow.
chokes you up for a second, because there were 40 people at that table.
Yeah.
And I met him as just a super stressed out attorney, and his story is in the book too. So they say you need to know your why, and I'm very clear on my why, simply in that I'm a people pleaser. It's probably as much a part of my success as my failures in life is to be a people pleaser. But I get what I want when I help other people get what they want. And so I've had this great success in helping firms, even if it's just fixing up this little piece of intake, or cleaning up the data, or automating the campaigns, whatever it may be. I know that nobody is spending money with me as an expense. Your lighting bill, your rent, those are all expenses. But when when somebody engages me, it's an investment. My job is to take whatever you've given me and somehow make it way more valuable at the end of that engagement.
Well, that's just incredible. Kerri, thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking with us. And if anybody listening could use the services or the aid of Kerri James of the law firm Growth Machine, or Kerri White herself, how do the people find you?
Well, you can certainly find me on the socials at Kerri White. We were talking about Kerri White from the horror films. There's only
I
one.
wasn't going to bring it up on air.
That's not me. I've never killed anyone in the shower, but you can find me on all the socials at Kerri White, and lawfirmgrowthmachine.com will bring you to where you can pick up the book. Plenty of content on YouTube, and always more coming. So please connect with me. You can also reach out. I'd love to connect personally. Email is Kerri@kerrijames.co.
Kerri, thank you so much again for coming on the show. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Kerri, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Such a pleasure.
This has been
I
such a
enjoyed
great
it immensely,
conversation.
Andrew.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.